It's, well, if you fall asleep, I understand. I have students falling asleep on me all the time, you know. I might fall asleep too. It was very interesting listening to Mustafa talking about the relationship between your identity and your religion. It wasn't that long ago. I remember when I was a kid, when a person converted into Islam, you don't say, dia masuk Islam. They used to say, dia masuk Melayu. Or, you know, that was a common term when I was growing up. You know, to be Muslim is equated to being Malay. Yeah, our constitution, it's a little bit the other way around, Mustafa. You don't have to be Muslim to be Malay. You have to be Muslim. The constitutional definition of Malay is that you have to be a Muslim. So it's a subtle difference, but anyway. So that's an interesting thing, and it's interesting to see that kind of thinking exists elsewhere as well. The association of ethnicity to faith. Anyway, so we're looking at modern threats to religious liberty. Of course, my job here is to talk about our home and what happens in our country. So once more, I want to go back to the Constitution again, and let's just very quickly revisit Article 3, which says, Islam is a religion of the Federation, but other religions may be practiced in peace and harmony in any part of the Federation. So that's very clear, all right? Islam is a religion of the Federation, but other religions may be practiced in peace and harmony in any part of the Federation. Now we take this with Article 11. And Article 11 is about the freedom of religion. And it says, every person has the right to profess and practice his religion and subject to Clause 4 to propagate it. Every person has the right to profess and practice his religion and subject to Clause 4 to propagate it. Every person. It doesn't say every non-Muslim. It says every person. So every single one of us has the right to profess and practice our religion. The only control is the propagation of religion. And Article 11.4 says that either the State Legislative Assembly or the federal government, the federal parliament, when it comes to Putrajaya, Labuan, and Kuala Lumpur, all right, can make laws which controls the propagation of religion to Muslims. Okay, that means they can. It's not they must. Okay? This is a very important distinction to make. The Constitution allows for laws to be made to control propagation of religion to Muslims. What is often missed out by a lot of people is that this applies also to Muslim propagation. The common misconception is they're talking about, you know, a Buddhist trying to convert a Muslim to Buddhism, or a Hindu or a Christian, all right? But this control also applies to Muslim propagation. And so if the state makes the necessary laws, then it is constitutionally allowed, yeah, to control propagation. But that seems to me the only limitation, the only control. Now we can argue whether that is right or wrong. Personally, I think it's wrong, because I think propagation is part of one's faith, and everybody should be allowed to propagate to whoever they want. Just as everyone has a right to tell you, please go away, I don't want to listen to you. All right? Strangely enough, when I was a student, a lot of religious people went around, you know, as a student, you're living in your flat or whatever it is. So often, other students who are very religious would come knocking on the door and say, you know, have you found Jesus? Or are you a good Muslim? Something or the other, right? They always come around trying to propagate things to you, you know, in universities. But for me, for some strange reason, no one has ever come to me to propagate any sort of religion. Maybe it's because when they get to my door, they feel very cold or something. I don't know. So Yeah, worse. this evil presence, he's beyond help. Anyway, so right, so those are, and of course you have your normal controls, which are the freedom to follow your religion does not means that you cannot do anything which is contrary to public order, public health, morality, which is a normal limitation because, what if I want to relive or bring back the Aztec religion and human sacrifice and on Chowkit Road, obviously not, right? Anyway, so that's the only limitation that we have, which brings me to the recent thing, which is of course the issue of using the term Allah amongst the Christian community. And from my perspective, it's very, very clear. You cannot control the Christian community from using the word Allah at all. All right? Of course, I have my own personal views on this. I've been lectured to many times because I've written about this, and I get very lengthy SMSs from very angry people say, Azmi, how can you say this? What about Al-Ikhlas and all the rest of it? And I say, yeah, I know Al-Ikhlas. Al-Ikhlas is my favorite verse in the Quran because it's so short. And, as a child, I could impress my ustaz because they say, read something, and I'll always read Al-Ikhlas because it's the only one I memorize because it's so short. So of course I know the verse, but from my reading of the verse, it's not about the word Allah. It's about the concept of God. God is God, but different people will have different concepts of what is God or who is God, right? And for me, that is what it's about. But that's just me. Anyway, but okay. Once again, before someone from Abim comes in and tells me I have no right to speak about religion because I didn't go to Al-Azhar. Let's just look at it from a purely legal perspective, from a purely secular legal perspective of our country. The Constitution, Article 3 says everyone has the right to practice their religion in peace. Okay, and Article 11 says everyone has the right to follow their religion. So as long as any community, I don't care whether it's a Sikh community or the Christian community, if they're using the word Allah as part of their practice and they're doing it peacefully, and as long as they're not doing it to propagate the religion to Muslims, then there's nothing wrong with that, legally speaking. And to oppress these people is wrong. It's wrong legally. I don't want to talk about it wrong. I don't want to talk about theological wrongness. I just want to talk about purely on a legal perspective. Because our laws are very, very clear. Okay? If you're using Allah as part of a propagation practice, where you're going around and you're propagating your religion, yeah, fine. The law does say that can be controlled. Okay, so if the state has laws which says you cannot propagate to Muslims and you're using Allah in your propagation, yes, fine. That can be unlawful. But to simply use it within your own context, within your own faith, within your own practice, that is something which is protected under Article 3. So it's completely wrong. And of course it makes us look very, very bad, but never mind. Now, that is with regards to recent developments on threats to the religious liberty of non-Muslims living in a Muslim-majority country, at least in Malaysia. The Shia is another issue, of course, although it seems to be a bit quiet now. Someone asked me the other day, asked me what's the situation with the Shias. I said, right now it's quiet because they found another enemy, it's the Christians. But that is also, it's for me, it's beyond. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it when it's stated that you're not Muslim. I mean, who are you to say who's a Muslim and who's not Muslim? Who are you? Who gave you the authority? Did the angel Gabriel come down one night and tell you, I now give you the authority? Who are you to tell me what I am and what I am not? But let's look at the law again. And our laws are crazy, yeah? With regards to this issue, now remember, Sharia laws differ from state to state. So I'm just looking at one particular law, which is the Federal Territories one. In the Federal Territories law, there's the Sharia Offences Federal Territories Act 1997, Section 4 reads, any person who teaches or expounds in any place, whether private or public, any doctrine or performs any ceremony or act relating to the religion of Islam shall, if such doctrine or ceremony or act is contrary to Islamic law or any fatwa for the time being in force in the federal territories, be guilty of an offense and shall on conviction be liable to a fine not exceeding 5,000 ringgit or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years or to whipping not exceeding 6 strokes or to any combination thereof. So it's in the law is in our books where you could use this against followers of any Islamic practice which you deem to be un-Islamic or wrong. And you don't need to just limit yourself to the Sharia offences. What this government also uses is others, the secular laws, the Printing Presses and Publications Act, which is actually a lot easier to use. It's broader. All right. So, for example, if you have books or booklets espousing the Shia doctrine, the Printing Presses and Publications Act under Section 7, which is about undesirable publication, those things can be banned. They can be confiscated and they can be banned. Those documents. All right. So we exist in a legal system which actually allows for the oppression of religious practice. And it doesn't matter what kind of religious practice, be it Muslim or non-Muslim religious practice. All right, the laws are in place. Now, whether these laws are constitutional or not is a separate matter altogether, and I would argue that it is unconstitutional. But like I said, this demands a challenge. It demands a challenge. It needs to go to court, and which is quite frightening for me because once the court decides if it's a bad decision, then it becomes, you ingrain it. All right, I don't have that much faith in the courts. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation. But anyway, so there's that. And what's worse about this whole persecution of the Shias is that the Malaysian Prime Minister Abdullah Badawi actually signed the Aman statement. Yeah, the message, is it the Aman message? The Aman Declaration. The Aman Declaration, which says that all Shia Sunnis, we are all Muslims. Right? So our Prime Minister, well, the last one, actually signed this declaration, and a few other members of the government at the time as well. And then suddenly we turn around and it's, and you're saying you're not Muslim. It's beyond shocking to me. And now they want to create a religious police. They want to create a religious police force. And from what I read, I haven't seen the full TOR, the terms of reference. Working in a university now, it's full of silly little things like that. What's your KPI? I don't know. What is a KPI? TOR, KPIs. Anyway, so what is a TOR? What's the terms of reference for this new police force? And from what I read in the press, because of course the government never gives us anything, all right, is that they seem to be determined to go against deviant sects. Right? Sex spelled S-E-C-T-S. Yeah, just not the other kind of deviance. So if that's the case, then my goodness, we're having a little paramilitary group whose job is to crush people who think differently from you. I don't know whether they're going to be the Kalwat squad as well, the new Kalwat squad, because the old, maybe, I don't know, will they be going around the Taman at night as well? I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether our new police force are going to do that or they're above that, and they only attack all these deviants. So, what I wonder is, why did we come to this? Why are we living in a situation like this? Maybe, perhaps, it's about control. Like I said earlier, if the way religious teaching is over here in this country is only one version is correct. And no other version can be tolerated. And there are laws which exist which can allow you to enforce your version on other people. And why is this? I suppose it's, part of me is thinking very cynically, it's about control. You control the masses. If your religious education is about homogeneity, it's about uniformity, then you have a mindset which is similar to that and makes you more pliable for other kinds of mind control. Maybe it's about asserting power. Yeah, the religious bodies in our country, the government religious bodies in our country, have becoming more and more assertive ever since the late 1980s, ever since the Islamization process of this country, because, and it wasn't because of any inward feeling of faith, but because of UMNO needing to compete against PAS by saying, I'm more Islamic than you. And so the religious authorities, Jawi, Jakim, etc., have become more and more powerful, and I think they like this power, and they want this power, and they want more power, even though they're not elected bodies. Maybe it is just about power. Maybe it's about creating enemies. Yeah, and I've said this many times before, the status quo in this country has changed. It's not the same anymore. Yeah? The government of the day does not have the same kind of support that it enjoyed for many, many decades. And then suddenly you find yourself being the unpopular choice. And let's make no mistake, yeah, they are the unpopular choice because most people didn't vote for them. All right? And then suddenly when you're unpopular like this, what are you going to do? All right? And from a purely political perspective, I can see here, they've given up on the non-Malay vote. But the Malays are not all for them as well. So what are we going to do? Best thing to do, make an enemy. You make an enemy, you scare the living daylights out of them, and they'll come back to us. That's why the Christians, suddenly, 6% of the population are so powerful. The Christians in this country are the most powerful people in the world, as far as I can see, because they can actually convert the rest of us. All right, okay? Or they can use Allah in their churches and not get confused and suddenly become Muslims. But we get confused because they use Allah. But they don't go, they should be the ones getting confused, isn't it? Because they're the ones using Allah. But no, they're so strong. And even though they're so small in number, they're going to convert all of us. Oh my goodness. Here is an enemy. Here, the Shia. Here is another enemy. You create enemies when enemies do not exist in order to be the great savior, in order to be the great hero. The only ones who can save us is UMNO and Barisan Nasional. Come back. Come back. We love you, we will protect you. All right, that seems to me, it's cynical. But I can't help but be cynical because I cannot see any other reason. And in this quest for power, what is crushed ultimately is any true, meaningful spiritualism. And it's sad. Thank you very much.